Okay, top 10 running backs. An interesting group of running backs as we have a mix of veterans and new players, even, I believe at least one rookie that's going to make this list. So a bit of an interesting group right here. But yeah, let's just get into the list. Top 10 running backs. I will just mention the one honorable mention, Tyler Algier. Wanted to find a way to fit him in, just couldn't quite do it. So these are the 10 running backs that make my top 10 list. Number 10, I am going with the guy who played for the Minnesota Vikings last year. Aaron Jones, obviously played for the Packers for a while. I just think is a very consistently good player. He maybe doesn't quite have the home run hitting ability that he did early on in his career, but still very good. Ended the year ninth in rushing yards, so 4.5 yards per carry. That's very effective. Obviously, part of that was just situation in Minnesota all worked out very well. But yeah, ultimately I thought he had a good year, so that's why I have him at 10. Number 9, I'm going James Cook, and he's a player who, like, for some of these guys, it's hard to decide who I want to put on the list and who I don't, because obviously rushing yards is a big part of how some people view this stuff, but also a huge chunk of rushing yards is, how many carries do you get? Chuba Hubbard, who maybe I could have put on the list, to be honest. It should have at least given him an honorable mention, but he was like 8th, but I just think James Cook is better. I think James Cook does more in the receiving game. I think he takes more attention in the rushing game, and honestly, I think he just maximizes more yards. So James Cook, while maybe the box score stats don't back him up being quite a top 10 running back, although still had 4.9 yards per carry. That's pretty good. But obviously, the situation in Buffalo is built around Josh Allen, but I think he added a nice piece. And again, had they won that conference championship game, he was going to be a huge part of it. Number 8, maybe a homer picking a player from my favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bucky Irving, who I got to say, as a Tampa Bay fan, boy, was this guy fun to watch. Ends the year 10th in rushing yards. He also, it's hard to figure out exactly where you want to say he ranked in average yards, because there's a lot of wide receivers who take snaps and stuff like that. But he had 5.4 yards per carry last season. But what I was more impressed with was how often there were plays where there was just nothing and he found a way to make it a positive play. The way he could generate space for himself, that's something that usually only the top running backs can do, and he was able to do it. So just in a rookie role, did not go every snap, and was still able to do that is impressive. I will say, not a blocker and not an ideal. He can catch, but just not an ideal third down back because of the blocking stuff. That has to hurt your stock. We'll get into that with another player as well. But ultimately, is still still had a great rookie year, and we'll see if he can climb the rankings in the future. Number 7 is Jonathan Taylor, one of those guys that it seems like there is, PFF isn't a huge fan of him. He did finish 4th in rushing yards last year, also had 11, he had 11 touchdowns last season as well, so that was, tied for 11th, I believe. Yeah, tied for 11th in rushing touchdowns. So, again, the bulk stats are there. He's a bell cow back, could have had 12 touchdowns, famously that play. But ultimately, just a player who, requires a lot of attention, is going to wear you down, is someone you can build an offense around, which we've seen them do, and have success when they do it. Number 6, I'm going James Conner, who, again, I think some people who maybe don't watch a ton of Arizona football might say, really, him? The guy from Pittsburgh? Trust me, this guy is a ridiculously good player. The bruising ability that he has, and again, the way that I kind of talked about Bucky Irving, how he can generate space, James Conner is a guy who doesn't necessarily do that, but he just falls forward and just can add yards that way. Just feels like plays that have no business working, he makes work, and he can win football games for a team. So, yeah, ultimately, James Conner is a great running back, and I'm going to definitely pound a table for him. He's fantastic. Number 5, I am going Jahmyr Gibbs right here, who was 5th in rushing yards last year, but at 5.6 yards per carry, that is ridiculous, and that is actually higher than the next 2 players on my list. Again, The explosiveness, right? Yes, you can sit here and say that the Lions' offensive line is ridiculous, and it is, and that has to be factored in. But also, like, when there would be a hole, he could just get through it so quickly and beat guys at the next level, right? The highlight reel level plays are ridiculous, and they're common as well. The one thing that did hurt him and probably knocked him down a couple spots is, again, a lot of people were annoyed. Why isn't he getting more touches? Why isn't he getting more carries? And listen, I mean, he had 250 carries. The other guys on this list were all over 300, with the top guy being at, the 345. Okay, that matters, right? For sure. It's impressive that Gibbs was still fifth despite having less carries. Part of it is just he's not a blocker. And because of that, you can't be out there every snap. And I think I have to give the edge to the guys who can be, but ultimately, he's still really good. If you want to argue him 3, I'll hear that argument. Number 4, I'm going Josh Jacobs, who, again, kind of similar to Jonathan Taylor, just kind of as a bruising running back. It's funny comparing Jacobs and Gibbs because they're like the complete opposite players. Like, Gibbs is just so flashy, and Jacobs really is like a blue-collar running back, right? He isn't the flashiest player, but man, does he just make the right read every time, gets through the right hole every time, consistently is in position to make things happen. And quite frankly, I don't think Green Bay has the year they had last year without letting Aaron Jones go and add Jacobs. And Aaron Jones, by my list, is still a top 10 running back in football. It's just how good Josh Jacobs is. I've always been a huge Jacobs fan, and I think he's continuing to just be fantastic. Number 3, I decided to go with Bijan Robinson. So Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs both make my top 5. Obviously, they were both drafted, only a few picks apart. Yeah, Bijan Robinson, again, kind of that bell cow back, but can definitely make the highlights as well. 1,400 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 14 touchdowns as well. So the box score stats are there. But again, the traditional stuff is there. Just every snap, it feels like that he's getting the ball, he's making things happen and making good things happen. And so that's definitely something that I think is very impressive. Number 2, you could argue this should be number 1, but to me, there's a lot of great running backs in this list. There are 2 clear guys who should be at the top 2. I don't think that we can debate which one should be 1 and which one should be 2. I decided to go with Derrick Henry as number 2. Again, on a quote-unquote down year, 1,900 yards on 5.9 yards per carry. Now, playing for Baltimore helps, right? The threat of Lamar Jackson helps. Of course, that has to be mentioned, but this guy's just ridiculous, right? He's averaged 113 yards per game, and this is quote-unquote him falling off. This is him not as good, and honestly, it kind of is, because he was better, even though he is still just this good. And again, it's not just box score stats. He is someone who is just, it's Derrick Henry. What else is there to be said about Derrick Henry that hasn't already been said? Finally, number 1, I'm going Saquon, the MVP candidate, the guy who won a Super Bowl. Granted, Super Bowl, the Chiefs did a good job of bottling him up, but obviously to get there, he was such a massive force, and the attention that he took in the Super Bowl obviously could help down the field. Ultimately, again, probably would have ended up breaking the rushing record had he not put the team first and been okay with sitting out that final game of the season. Ultimately, he then has an incredible postseason run, wins the Super Bowl, and again, I just think was better than a lot of these other guys. That's just what it comes down to. The box score, again, 125 yards per game, that's best in football. But just watching him, it's interesting because, Derrick Henry, it seems like he just turns every 4-yard run into an 8-yard run. Saquon Barkley doesn't necessarily do that. There's a lot of 4-yard runs that he just gets 4 yards on, but then there's just these 8-yard runs that he gets 80 on, and he did that so often last year that, to me, that is why he was the best running back in football. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.